Circles remix. Oh my gosh. Oh, I love the Circles remix. Let's go look at the Circles remix because this is an old song that I think turned out really well. And people really enjoyed, but I didn't get a lot of attention, and I honestly think it could be better mixed. So let's see what the state of Circles is, and if we can remaster it a little bit, work on some stuff. I remember this one was like it was like a Michael Franti vibe. Oh my goodness, look at the colors. We're in a desert. Holy. Wow, this is disgusting. That's a really easy button that I never knew existed. It's right there. Assign track color to group tracks and clips. So easy. Beautiful. So like, yes, at this point I was starting to use a sidechain bus. Thank God. Sidechain is still wrong. Look at the release time. It should be more like there. And this threshold should probably be a lot lower. But yeah, oh my goodness. All right, so clearly I didn't know a whole lot. So let's fix up all these colors. Female vocals. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that. Let's have a listen. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Y'all ready? Baby girl got me like a hula hoop. So I like it. I like the vibes. It just doesn't feel very professional at the moment. It doesn't feel like everything's really glued together. Oh, I was playing out with mastering, wasn't I? Yeah. So Ableton has some built-in mastering and stuff. And I forget where it is. It's like over here, audio effect rack, mixing, mastering. Yeah, there it is. So if you wanted some built-in like tailored mastering, I didn't have mastering software at this point, so I was just jumping at whatever I could find in Ableton. It kind of got me in the right area, but there's definitely more room for compression here. I've got to fix the color of the drums. Ah, yes, nice brown color. I really don't like that color. That was not my favorite either. I usually put drums as orange. Whatever. But yeah, immediately what I'm hearing is that the vocals don't sound processed whatsoever. Yeah. I had just discovered this effect of making things sound really wide. Because normally it sounds like this. And you won't be able to hear this if you're not listening on a stereo system, but all it does is it moves things, it delays them just very slightly out to the left and right channels, and then if you hear left and right things at a different time, even if it's like a couple milliseconds, your brain still interprets it as coming from someplace else, and that's not directly in front of you. So that's really interesting, and that's how that effect works. You can see I'm just taking one part of the signal and sending it to the right and delaying it by 10 milliseconds, and then the other one is just completely dry and it goes to the left. So you're actually hearing in the left channel before you hear it in the right channel, and that makes it sound like it's either coming from behind you or something else. But that's really interesting. Baby girl got me like a hula hoop, running in circles through my head. I know she feeling the same way I do. So why she plays so hard to get? I might be tempted to do the process the vocals a little bit on this one, just because I do have Nectar, and Nectar is really fun for processing vocals with. And then also the bass. The bass is cool, but I think it might need some like compression or something. Let's see what we can work on. I think this could use a sub actually. So like it doesn't, the electric bass has a good sound to it, but it's just missing a lot. So let's just fill that in with a sub. That's interesting. That's not how it sounds to me, but maybe this needs to be up an octave. Yeah. Oh, this needs to be up an octave. Yeah, so these notes are in a better place. But typically your sub bass ranges from D1 to A1. That's where it's going to sound the best on speakers. D1's actually pretty low. E is probably the lowest I tend to go, depending on the type of song. But speakers generally have a hard time producing frequencies any lower than that accurately. So usually I try to avoid those frequencies with the sub bass. But I think this does a nice job at filling out these frequencies that are missing here. If we look at an EQ, I'm actually going to cut this off at like 100. And then we're going to cut this off at also 100. And I don't know if you saw my linear phase video. If you are mixing two signals together, like two bass instruments, like the sub and the electric bass, then you need to be careful that you're not actually introducing phase cancellation, because that's going to give you like a weird cancellation right in the frequencies that are going to be most powerful by your speakers. And you don't want to lose any power when you're mixing two bass instruments together.
Baby girl got me like a hula hoop, running in circles through my head. I know she feeling the same way I do. So why she play so hard to get? She got me going round and round like a hula hoop, oh merry-go round. Round and round like a hula hoop, oh merry-go round. Round and round like a hula hoop, oh merry-go round. This is how I go down, down.
Wow, that sucks. All right. So let's figure out how to make this better. I don't know. Let's keep listening. That's better.
Hey, you so cold, girl. It's already so.
Again with the electric bass, we can put this in. I think, especially what I was talking about earlier with the sub, you don't really want the sub to be jumping around in octaves, because it should try to maintain that consistent power through your speakers. Right, so like, we don't want it to hit this upper octave here, because it's going to sound weird and maybe be like suddenly more loud. You want it to maintain this constant frequency range, so that when you hear it on speakers that can actually produce those frequencies, again, like if you're not listening to this on headphones, you're going to have a hard time hearing the things I'm talking about, because your phone speakers literally cannot produce sub frequencies. I don't know, maybe phones are getting better at this point. You could be listening to this many years in the future and like what I'm saying doesn't even matter. The point is subs should stay within the same little range so that they actually give you consistent power and they just fuel everything else that's going on. They're not meant for you to actually listen to them. They're just supposed to be like bass, right? Like, if anything, you're going to feel it more than you're going to hear it. And they're the things that like shake rooms. So you want that to be as consistent and powerful as possible. So I think I'm just going to adjust this bass a little bit to fit better.
Hey, you so cold, girl. It's already such a cold world. Come with me and let's escape this. Got a couple places we could go, girl. No, girl, but no, sir. You won't play on. No, girl, but no, sir. You won't play on them games still. Talking about who you came with. Girl, I'm not by no lame shit.
You can see like how I took this range. This one's okay just because it's like the fill. But I took this range that was like spanning an octave, and now it no longer goes nearly as high as it did before. I like that hit. That's cool. This piano, I'm just gonna go ahead and throw Neutron on this just because I like Neutron. To me, this piano sounds a little bit dry. It could probably use more compression. We're gonna let Neutron decide what it wants to do. I love using Neutron this way because it gives you like a suggestion. Yeah, do you see that brightness? That brightness just came out. I think it just needed a little bit of push in that brightness. And also, like, Neutron's great because it has the sculptor, and if you don't know what an instrument is supposed to sound like, Neutron does. I love iZotope. Anyway. Ooh, I don't know about that crunch. That sounds like a little bit of a crunch. I think it's just the saturation. I'm just gonna get rid of the exciter. Honestly, I don't think it's really doing anything great for us. And if you don't think it's helping make the sound better, you shouldn't do it. Let us continue. What were we working on? I think this bass could use a little bit of help too. So let's bring the Neutron Sculptor to the rescue. One of my favorite things to do in Neutron Sculptor, at least, is to glue instruments together and bypass a lot of EQ surgery that I would otherwise have to do. And it just helps put things in their place. Yeah, and honestly, I think they could use a little bit of compression too. So let's just put on a little compressor. I feel like we should do this differently, because this is going to be really consistent because it's been being played with a different instrument. Right, so the reason that I'm separating these bands like this is because we actually did use two different instruments to make this bass sound. We used the sub, and we also used the electric bass that was from Ableton. And so what I want to do is grab both of those levels and pull them together. So if we just compress them all as one thing, they're not actually one thing. So that's not going to give you as glued of a sound as I'm looking for. So that's why we separated the bands like that. Anyway, what do we got now?
Baby girl got me like a hula hoop.
I'm tempted to process these vocals. Honestly, this is a great way to show off Nectar also. Nectar by iZotope. Again, I love iZotope products. For this one, I would like to go with a vintage moderate sound. That just fits with the style I'm going for. You can choose a whole bunch of stuff. You can go for vintage, modern, or dialogue. And in this case, I want it to be like warm and feel a little bit old school. So I'm going for the vintage. And like it says there, in favor of a darker and mid-focused vocal sound. And also a moderate amount of processing, right? And so now it's going to go over the vocals and make suggestion. And then we can talk about all the things that it does.
Round and round like a hula hoop or a merry-go. Round and round like a hula hoop or a merry-go. Round and round like a hula hoop or a merry-go. This is how I go. Down, down. Like a hula hoop. Running in circles through my head. I know she feeling the same way I do. So why she play so hard to get? She got me going round and round like a hula hoop or a merry-go. Round and round like a hula hoop or a merry-go.
I actually hear some noise on this, so I'm gonna use RX again by iZotope and denoise this a little bit. And I'm running a trial of this, so I only have this for a little bit longer. But RX, I think, is really fantastic for this type of thing. And if we listen,
baby girl got me like a hula hoop.
Listen to that.
Running in circles through my head.
Bypass it.
I know she feeling the same way I do. So why she play so hard to get? She got me going round and round like a hula hoop or a merry-go. Round and round like a hula hoop or a merry-go.
Like instantly cleaner. It's like it rescues bad recordings. And not that this is a bad recording at all, but it just removes all the artifacts in the background that you might not be able to do otherwise. And like the sculptor, this is also like a dynamic EQ. You can see like I have it in the adaptive mode. So it is going in and trying to remove noise when it thinks there's noise to remove. And so that's really cool. It's going to get a little louder. Excuse me. My gosh. Let's just pull this down a little bit so that we can hear this.
Baby girl got me like a hula hoop, running in circles through my head. I know she feeling the same way I do. So why she play so hard to get? She got me going round and round like a hula hoop or merry-go-round. Round and round like a hula hoop or merry-go-round. Round and round like a hula hoop or merry-go-round. This is how I go down, down.
Yeah, so this is not the best. I don't know why exactly this is here. Because it feels like it should just go straight into the next section. I really like the next section a little bit more.
Down.
Definitely this part, it feels kind of weird. I think the lead is really confusing to me. It feels like crunchy. I like that one. I really like this one. That one's cool, but I think that might be leading to the crunch. That too. See if we can come up with why these are feeling crunchy. I don't know. Oh, distortion. Maybe that. I think maybe I added that distortion thinking, oh, it just makes it like more consistent sound, but really what you should be using for that is a compressor. And so I just turned the ratio down a little bit and put it on multiband mode so we can keep that sound going a little bit more. But what's really important to me is the fact that it doesn't feel crunchy, and the distortion was causing that crunchiness. So let's see what else, because I think the other one, it's not as crunchy. The most epic saw. Thank you, Cymatics. Again, we can probably cut off some of this high end. Most of this stuff, like 10K and above, is really not necessary for this sound. Also, that tri-wood is very high. I think it's really just the like the high stuff. I don't know what's going on in there, but it's not really my favorite. I think I might low pass this a little bit. Cool. So that what I did with this cut here is I brought down a little bit of the harshness, and I think also Neutron is gonna help fix what's going on with our synth. Yeah, that's so much better. Like, it's just cleaning up some of the resonances and things in there. So let us do that. All right. Yeah, so I think this mix could use a little bit more help, but we're going to save that for another time. I will see you guys in the next video, and we'll continue working on this one.